Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Christa, the place where you can ask questions about how to work through business challenges and workplace issues. I'm Christa Dhimo, and today's listener question continues to address this season's theme of career growth, but more from a perspective of how you manage career growth when you feel stuck or maybe even doomed in the middle. Middle management is talked about as though it's superfluous, extra, even maybe wasteful. Maybe it is if an organization grew very quickly, hired a lot, created various layers, and never tracked what was effective or efficient. Now they don't have a middle layer anymore. They have layers and layers and layers of that middle layer, and that can choke communications, delay or paralyze decisions, and make for really slow change when it's needed. There are indeed times when there are simply too many layers. But absent of a wasteful situation, the middle layer is a highly valuable and competitively strategic layer if you design it to be. Here's the listener question. I'm a director in a mid-sized global engineering company. We have about 8,500 employees worldwide, with the majority of them being in the US. My role is considered middle management, where I have 2 levels above me to get to the CEO and 2 levels below me to get to individual contributors. In my company, we have several individual contributors who are seasoned and more senior in their careers, but they do not want to manage people, or they want to work in roles that offer variety and a matrixed opportunity for them to collaborate with several teams. I mention this to note that several of our individual contributors are self-directed and at my level. They just don't have direct reports. My next step is a title bump to senior director, and I just received notice that I'll be promoted during our current review cycle. This is exciting for me, but it also got me thinking, what do I do after that? I report to a vice president who reports to a senior vice president who reports to the CEO. I haven't wanted to talk to my manager about a career path beyond the title bump because I don't want to appear as eager to skip levels. And honestly, I'll have a lot to learn as a senior director before I'm prepared for a vice president level anyway. But there's a part of me that's worried I'm doomed to be stuck in middle management for several more years. What are your thoughts about middle management roles? Am I stuck in middle management forever? In the last few weeks, I've received a lot of questions from listeners feeling stuck in their current roles, and nearly all of them have been lingering, hovering, and in quite a few cases feeling stuck or stalled out in positions that are in the middle layer of an organization. It's easy to feel lost in the mix of things when you're in that middle layer, and some might even consider that the curse of middle management, but I do see it differently. Career growth is about growth. It's about learning and expanding and experiencing new things, or stretching and elevating and feeling more challenged with respect to the work you do. Most often, people think about career growth as promotions, and many times that's true, but not always. Career growth is about growth. I encourage you to review episode 49, where I focus on the different aspects of career growth if you're interested in learning more. But when it comes to middle management, most people talk about how hard it is, how thankless it can feel, and how challenging it feels. And that makes sense. When you're the fulcrum of a rather large seesaw, you feel a lot of friction as the weight of one side and the other goes up and down. But that's also the challenge of anyone who's in the middle of 2 stakeholder groups. And the 2 stakeholder groups for middle managers are senior leaders steering the organization and individual contributors and able to do the work because of how the organization is being steered, at least in theory. In general, I've observed 3 factors that make a middle manager position more challenging than it needs to be. First, most people in management positions do not adequately learn how to be an effective manager. Episode 18 in season 2 addresses the question, does management training matter? And yes, it does. Middle managers are in fact managers. If you aren't prepared to be effective, you won't be effective. A lot of people talk about how hard a middle manager role is, and it is, largely because you're managing other good humans, and humans are messy. We're incredibly dynamic. We make the world go round, and we get a lot of good work done, but we also create chaos. It's our ability to regulate our emotions from time to time and have lives outside of work that impact our work life. A 100% people position like middle management needs consistent and ongoing upskilling and cross-skilling of what it takes to manage good humans to do their best every day, whatever that best looks like. Second, the number of stakeholders. Whew. You can't keep everyone happy, and it's not your job to even try, but some might think it is. Your job is to manage all around you, though, 360 degrees, up, over, down, around, in between. And that's because most middle managers are the hub to a lot of work streams. As part of that, and by definition, Each of those work streams has different owners and different stakeholders with different views on what success looks like and different expectations of you and your team. If you're the hub of that, it can be rough. Third, politics. Season 4's episode 43 answered the plea for help because the listener hated politics, and I get it completely. In that episode, I talked about thinking of politics as influence. Not all politics are bad or toxic, and if you're the hub to that many spokes, that many stakeholders, that many needs and expectations, it means you're the hub to a lot of influence and a lot of needs and probably a lot of politics. You also have a team you're managing to enable their success as much as possible, and you're balancing that out with the success of many around you, including your own success in partnership with your manager, especially depending on the kind of manager you have. Of course, culture and commitment matters too. If you have that hub role, as middle management tends to be, you need to have an organization that supports it. And if they don't support it, then expect things to be tough. But if you understand the value of a hub role, then you have the foundational perspective to be successful in that role. And in fairness, I suppose culture and commitment is number 4. To recap, what makes a middle manager role more challenging is lack of preparation, either because there's no or very little training or support or mentorship or all of the above. The sheer number of stakeholders and needs or expectations you have to manage up, over, down, and all around, and the politics and level of influence needed to keep those expectations where they should be while making space for your new expectations or effectively pushing back on unrealistic expectations. You are, after all, focused on the success of your team just as much as you're focused on the success of your leaders, your peers, and of course, yourself. Now, there have been several news releases in the last many years that talk about companies doing away with middle management roles, but I don't see that happening. What I see happening when they get rid of middle manager roles is a lot of companies are doing away with the task manager role. Roles that organizationally fit in the middle of the organization, but really focus on getting the work done as a matter of tasks versus getting the work done as a matter of organizational performance. And overall, here's where I see the biggest blind spot and knowledge gap when it comes to organizations appropriately preparing their middle managers and then actually leveraging that layer as a strategic strength. Think about the best sports team as an example. If the owners and team administrators are the senior leaders, and the specialty coaches and athletic trainers are the frontline leaders interfacing the most with everyone on the team, you could argue that the lead coach is the middle manager. Some may push back on me, argue that the coach is a senior leader, but that's only because of perceived decision-making capabilities and their authority as a prized and revered leader to a team. So maybe they're a senior leader from a team's perspective. And that's my point. Organizationally, the coach is in the middle layer. They're the ones that bridge between the top leaders making large strategic decisions and the team. Sure, they have a lot of say in how certain strategies go, but that's because of their knowledge and experience on how the game is played and how well they can play certain plays based on the talent mix of the team. And in that way, that role is a strategic role for the team, for the game. It's also based on how good their frontline leaders and supervisors are as it relates to developing the talent of the team while keeping them healthy enough to play the plays. If more organizations embrace the middle management layer as a strategic fulcrum, the part of the organization designed to take the most friction, the most weight of the organization, and balance the needs of senior leadership with those closest to the customers, they'd receive the strategic value and competitive advantage of excellence in that middle layer. But instead, what a lot of organizations do is put their middle management layer into task manager roles. Unfortunately, this not only dilutes the strength of that middle layer, but also creates a middle layer that supervises the work instead of strategically managing the talent to run the best plays for the organization each day while satisfying senior leader expectations and offering the best work experience for the team and the best outcomes for the client. Middle management is a necessary layer in an organization. Some companies have to right size or think about whether that middle layer is so big that it hinders progress or prohibits frontline employees from feeling empowered enough to make decisions in that moment. But if that middle layer is expendable in your organization, it's because you either don't know how to make the layer a competitive advantage, you run a more transactional business so you don't need that layer as a competitive advantage, or at least not a big layer of it, Or you have a highly matrixed organization where the hierarchy associated with a middle layer doesn't fit the needs of your business. It just slows things down. And yes, that happens. Several organizations may go through a delayering because they grew too fast or their strategy has shifted and they have duplicative tasks or work taking place in different places. The question becomes, do all these layers help or hinder performance? But in my estimation, there's just as many instances where the organization doesn't know how to make the layer a competitive advantage. Maybe you don't need as many layers, or maybe you can expand the scope of what you do and offer more by making the layers more strategic and value add within your organization. Now, having said all of that, I recommend to our listener that you first consider your value and the competitive edge that middle management can and may already bring to your organization. Adjust and adapt your thinking away from what you may read about and listen to with respect to middle managers, and form your own position on what that role is capable of for the greater good and higher value of your organization. Next, as our listener mentioned in the question, their organization includes individual contributors, and while they may be closer to the work and to the customers, they're regarded as senior and understood as experienced. Not all next-level career growth is about becoming a manager. And while this concept is only about 20 or 25 years old, if that, it's an important one to embrace. I think part of why people feel stuck or stalled out in middle management positions is because they aren't ready for the next step into an executive role, or, frankly, that's not where they want to be. So take a step back. What can you do with the impressive experience you have? Perhaps switch into consulting within your industry, or consider a specialized role within your organization as a subject matter expert, or consider whether a different company makes sense. Maybe that's your next step. Maybe a smaller organization is a better move for you, where you might manage people but contribute your expertise in a different way. Maybe it's a larger organization. You have options. Last is to, similar to what I said at the beginning, shift your mindset. Resist that urge to go along with what everyone says about middle management. We all know which organizations have little regard for a middle layer, so just in the future, avoid those companies. Take your newfound position on the middle management layer, create a manifesto about how you view the role of middle management, and plot your next step, either with or without the support of your manager, and either in or outside of your company. For your resources located in the show notes, I included an article from the Academy to Innovate HR from November 2024. It's called What is Delayering? Definitions and Examples. And I included it because it's a super efficient read with a section that provides a quick overview of what delayering is, which is essentially flattening out the hierarchy we see in a lot of businesses. And again, that often happens because of fast growth or breadth of scale across a large number of products. And now you can become more efficient by contracting all of those layers. But this organization, the people who wrote it, review the difference between delayering and downsizing, which is an important distinction. Then they talk about the advantages and disadvantages of delayering, which is also an important perspective to learn, especially if you're in that middle management layer and continue to hear about layoffs in the middle management layer. Having a level of knowledge and perspective always helps in determining various aspects of your career development. Next up, and in line with having perspective, an insightful article from Harvard Business Review called Middle Managers Feel the Least Psychological Safety at Work. It's from this month, October 2025, and it reviews how the risk profile or feelings about risk changes once someone is promoted into a position where you have multiple stakeholders all around with different needs and expectations, and that is essentially middle management. It's particularly prominent when someone in the middle has been newly promoted. The article quickly reviews the various factors of what's behind psychological safety, such as fear of making mistakes. They also talk about structural isolation. There are so many stakeholders, it's hard to build camaraderie among peers. The last article is from the Indeed editorial team with an article also from this month, October 2025. It's called A Guide to the Role of Middle Management with Job Titles. It reviews the important functions of the middle layer in organization, reviews various skills required, and yes, also includes some job titles. Some of them might surprise you, like being the head of a division. Yes, sometimes that's middle management. And that's a wrap for episode 51 in season 5, focused on career growth. You can submit your question on my show's site, askchrista.com. That's Christa with a CH, where you'll see all my episodes listed based on category and season. While you're there, sign up for my More Answers newsletter, where you'll receive additional content on Sunday nights to set you up for the work week. As always, thank you for your support. And remember, if you have a business challenge or a workplace issue, ask Christa.